Hello and welcome to Chaotic Risk TV. My name is Jason JROCK Houston. Today we're speaking with Devin Reiche, the bass player and lead singer from Anubis.
Actually, just lead singer. I no longer play bass.
Okay,
We have
well,
we have a real bass player now.
thank you for correcting us. So this is something I'll tell you a funny story real quick, Devin. I was doing one of these interviews for the first time and with somebody the other day, and of course on the day where to do it, the computer here on my end starts updating, and so we're
All
only able
right.
to get the audio, but we got it all practiced out, and we're so how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Yeah, it's a nice rainy day here in
Yeah,
LA.
working, man. Yeah, I'm in Los Angeles too, Long Beach, California, to be exact. So we're not too far away. Um, you're obviously a working musician. Just get off at work as you're telling me. So you guys just released a mini EP. Let's talk a little bit
Yeah,
about that. Decreation Day. So you released
Decreation Day.
two
Yes.
songs. That's great. So let's tell us about that.
Okay. What do you want to know?
Well, like I'm an old school guy, so
Okay.
back when I was growing up, bands put out full length albums, and even I know the modern way of doing it is EP, but this is really a mini EP, two songs. So I
I mean,
think
it's
that
really more of a single. So I mean, basically, just so for people who don't know, it's two songs. One is kind of like a like old school thrash song in the style of like Slayer or early Dark Angel or like Carcass or something like that.
okay,
And the second is kind of like a harder edged take on the kind of stuff that Dragon Force were doing in their early days.
okay, okay.
Um, it's kind of like one is kind of like a power metal-y infused thrash song, and the other is kind of a thrash infused power metal song. Is the
Now,
way I
I
look
was
at
reading
it.
on your Facebook page the title track, Decoration Day. You guys got a great lyric video for that. Talk a little bit about that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I was reading something that it's inspired or about the Holocaust.
Okay. So yeah, so this lyrically, the song was inspired by the time when I was touring Europe with my other band Hatchet, and we stayed in a van outside Auschwitz.
Oh,
Like literally, we parked literally outside the gates of Auschwitz uh, to sleep that night, and I just remember being weirded out by the whole experience. Like we drove into town in the middle of the night, and there was like really spooky mist everywhere, and like we stopped at a gas station, and like I don't know, like I don't know if I was just psyching myself out or if this was actually real, but
yeah.
like the people we interacted with just kind of had this sort of like zombified horror film
Wow.
quality to them. um like like I don't know, like the family in Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something like that, where like everyone in this town knows that there's this horrible secret here, and
Yeah.
obviously the secret would be Auschwitz, but like the out of towners don't know about it. And it kind of got me thinking about you know what it is like to live around in such close proximity to such a significant historical atrocity site.
I mean,
You
quite
know,
different from living here in Los Angeles. Huh? I mean, how much of
oh
it was
yeah.
just knowing that it took place there? I'm standing real close to where the Holocaust took place. I mean, are there still remnants of it? Like when you're there, is it like a huge culture shock what you're seeing compared to living in Los Angeles?
I mean, like obviously Europe is very, very different from anywhere in the States, but
Yeah,
it's quick question, can you still hear me?
I can hear you fine. Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, I'm coming in fine.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Um, yeah, obviously living, Europe is very different, but sort of I think that what shocked me the most is just how casual the presence of Auschwitz was. Like,
yeah,
you look around and you see houses and you see schools and convenience stores, and it's a bright sunny day, and there in the middle of that is just this historical war
yeah.
crime site. um and we in America do have some, like we have, you know elements of our history are very dark,
Oh, sure.
just like over
Yeah,
there, but I don't think that there's any one site that packs that much sort of visceral punch.
yeah.
um like there's not, as far as I'm aware, there's not one site in America where like
You can point to and say that's the
40%
place.
of slavery took place.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I guess there's areas like the field of Gettysburg or whatnot, but it's not quite the same.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just an interesting thing to think about. How what the darkness of your own culture's history means for you, I
Well, yeah, and
guess.
then being on the other side of the world and kind of feeling that it shows you that okay, well, you may be from Los Angeles and it's not quite as bad as it is there, maybe that the world's a big place and there are
It is a
things
big
going
place.
there are things going on all around the world. And it's interesting talking to you today, Devin. That we'd be talking about this and it just takes it to another level. That your music could be inspired by something like that. Think that you're a guy who plays in a metal band. Typically, people would not think, "Oh, guy plays in a metal band. He doesn't really give a crap about anything like that." But you've proven people otherwise.
Well, I feel like that's kind of like like that's one of the cultural underpinnings of metal is that like there's that stereotype that you're like
Yeah,
this death obsessed, loud
yeah.
music obsessed dumbass, but you're actually much deeper and more thoughtful on the inside. I think that it's possible that element of it has been lost over the past,
Oh, sure.
20 or
I
so
mean,
years, but like when I first started listening to metal,
yeah.
that was just part of the identity.
I mean, even as a metal
Is
fan, there's some great moments in metal history. I mean, one that comes to mind is you go all the way back to 1985 when Dee Snider, Twisted Sister, testified
Mhm.
at those Senate hearings, and he looks like
Exactly.
he does, and how shocked those senators and their wives all were. This
Exactly.
is an educated guy. This guy,
Mhm.
he knows what he's talking about. And then he
Yes.
gets up there with John Denver and Frank Zappa of all,
Mhm.
people to kind of back him up. And then, a few years later, Rob Halford, the metal god, and he comes out about being gay,
Yep.
and then you hear him talk about, oh yeah, people thought for years leather and studs, all the way metal. And then he was even more surprised when he finally came out and the metal community, got behind him and they still loved him. And it just shows you that
Yeah.
the world's not necessarily such a bad place as everybody
Right.
wants to think it is.
Most of them did. Yeah.
Yeah.
There were holdouts, but
There
yeah,
always
most people
are, but
did.
it just shows you the world's not such a bad place, maybe.
Yeah. Well, elements of it.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think it goes to show that the metal scene has always the metal community and fandom and whatnot has always been severely underestimated
Yeah.
by people. And
I guess even a
sort of
better point I'm trying to make with Rob Halford is, when you think of metal, he's the metal god, so people had a certain image of what that is, and then it just
right.
shows
And
how people have those images shattered, and maybe we were wrong, or maybe people that had that because even he says like people had no idea Rob Halford. He's like I was going in sex shops in London to get those things that I'd wear on stage, and people had
yep.
no idea, and we can
Yep.
laugh about it now,
And
but
I
it's
mean,
yeah.
he was also not particularly subtle about it with his lyrics sometimes.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know, um, definitely, definitely a lot of signs in retrospect. But yeah, I
And
don't know.
it leads me to my next question is you as being the lead singer and the songwriter, I mean, you get pretty in depth with some of your lyrics.
Pretty what?
In depth, it's
Oh
more
yeah,
than
yeah.
just a song that bashes you over the head. You're making your fans kind of think about what the songs are about.
I'd like to think that's the case.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thank you. I appreciate hearing that.
Yeah, well, you just and your vocals are really intense and powerful. In fact,
Thank you.
and you kind of you got your own sound going, but there is kind of a Halford kind of intensity to what you do. So I was curious, Devin, who were your idols growing up as far as singers that you wanted to be like,
So as far as singers, my absolute number one biggest influence as a vocalist of all time is Matt Barlow from Iced Earth.
oh yeah, oh cool, okay,
No
yeah,
question about
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Beneath him would be like um Hansi Kirsch from Blind Guardian, uh, James Hetfield, obviously,
yeah,
if we're talking about growing up.
yeah,
Um, the Ozzy, Russell Allen from Symphony X. I actually very recently learned that I sound almost or I should say I can sound almost completely identical to Joaquin from Sabaton.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
I
Yeah.
should probably start listing him as an influence.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
uh,
that's pretty amazing. And not too long ago, um, I had reviewed for knhc.com. I do stuff for them as well, and I reviewed your compilation you put out. I don't know if you call it
yeah,
greatest hits, but what I thought was unique about that is like, especially to kind of tell you, I honestly never heard of you guys until your publicist reached out to
of
me.
course.
He sends me a lot of great bands to interview, but long story short, what's cool about me about me is I'm just learning about the band at the time, and I thought it's a great way to kind of learn about who this band is. And like we're saying today, the newest release is just like two songs, but at the same time, okay, so this is what came before. This is kind of what they're doing
Right.
now, and you get to kind of find out, okay, this is who this band is. I think it's a great thing for people to go check out if they want to learn more about who Anubis is.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate all of that. Any sort of like appreciation for like what we're doing just goes an incredibly long way with me. Like
Yeah, and let's talk about
I don't
the
take any bit
modern
of it for granted.
music business. I mean, like I said, when I was growing up, anyways, bands put out these full length albums, but of course,
Right.
it's a very different place. So, being that as it may, does it give you the ability to kind of not necessarily have to work on a deadline where you say, okay, we're going to release these two tracks right now in January of 2023. We can get to work on some new songs, and maybe 2 or 3 months now we can release some more music.
Right. Well, so we're unfortunately getting to an area where I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say.
I got you. Okay, okay.
I should really look into that more because I feel like I feel like I end up just in a sort of dead end in some interviews. And I feel like I should be able to blah, 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 blah. I should be allowed to say a little bit more than nothing whatsoever. Um, uh,
Well, again,
but
like yeah, when I was growing up, bands would go in the studio. They'd all be in the same room. I mean, I've interviewed guys where their bands, they live in different parts of the world, and yet they're able to go in the studio and record. It's a very different world. And
yeah, I mean, there's definitely like, I've known a lot of bands that live every member in different parts of the world. I think, our rationale is that it doesn't really make sense for us to put out an album until we are signed to a label.
I got you.
Um,
Okay.
but like I said, I'm going to
You're coming in loud and clear.
say that I'm not allowed to say anything more, and then let your imagination fill in
Yeah.
the blanks
Well,
of what
you're
I'm
coming in
implying.
loud and
So
clear. I get the message. It's delivered. Um,
yeah, but yeah, so yeah, so suffices to say that until that is completely solidified, um, we just got a new bass player, this guy Will, who brought with him just tons of his own material that's excellent. And then I've got tons of back material, and our guitar players are just like writing like crazy. So like we we want to be releasing 2 song EPs or singles or whatever you want to call them, like on a
yeah.
pretty regular basis in the next year.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Now that's a pretty good place to take the interview. Because like I was
okay.
saying, I was reading that you were originally the bass player and the lead singer, and you just explained you brought in this new guy Will. So talk a little bit about the decision to put down the bass and just wanting to be the front man,
It
which I
is a
totally
very,
understand.
very, so I mean, like, my rationale behind attempting to do bass and singing at the same time, uh, from the beginning, was that those are two of the hardest members to find, the bass player and the vocalist. And if I can start this band off fresh with two of the hardest things out of the way, it'll simplify the process a whole lot. But
But
to put it simply, and also I don't like the idea of taking up the spotlight. Like I wanted to be doing vocals, but I also wanted to be just one of the guys, like,
I got
maybe
yeah,
all the way
yeah,
off to the right,
yeah.
just one of the guys. I never really imagined myself like, in the center going yeah, like the spotlight thing, like
So is this
the
your first time actually being the front man?
yes. Um,
Oh, wow.
However, I really, really, really suck at playing bass and singing at the same time.
Well, I
Like
gotta tell you, my friend,
epically suck.
I think you made the right choice only because I love your
Yes.
singing. And here's what's
Oh,
unique
thank
about
you.
your story. A lot of people have that story, believe it or not, where maybe the spotlight or the lead singer or the frontman position fell on them because out of everybody in the band, they had the best voice. I don't know if that's your
Oh yeah.
story, but talk a little bit about that because it's
So
unique.
I started out as a guitar player. I wanted to start a sort of a symphonic power metal band, and we just could not find a vocalist. No, everyone either wanted to play death metal, all the influences were right and their attitude was right and their, level of dedication was right, but they suck, or influences are right, dedication is right, they're phenomenal vocalists, but they're whiny little bitches,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
they aren't
yeah,
really
yeah,
interested,
yeah.
or whatnot. Um, just everywhere, like every horror story about dealing with vocalists under the sun, I have some sort of experience with.
Lead
Um,
singer disease, right? Yeah,
what? Yeah, yeah, exactly. God, I
yeah.
hate singers so much. Literally, I hate every single one of them without a single exception. Singers are the biggest fucking bitches. They're
Yeah.
whiny, like, oh God.
And now you're
Sorry
one of
if
them,
I'm
but
a little
you
triggered
fit
by
the
this
part,
story.
right? Yeah.
What? Yeah. So long story short, I kind of decided that like if I didn't want to just die with like 40 unheard songs in my head,
Yeah.
I needed to learn how to do this myself.
So when you started actually doing the vocals and saying, "Okay, I'm going to step up and be a front man," how surprised were you by the reaction of probably the other guys in the band, the people, the
Well, so
manager?
this is actually a completely different band from the one I originally started, like tried to
Oh,
start. Like there were actually some years in between because, it takes a couple years to
yeah,
get really good at singing, even if you practice all the time, which I did.
yeah.
Um, you know, a year can get you presentable. And it's usually about 3 years before you should even
Attempted.
consider doing it. Um, and it took me about I probably got into being a frontman a little too early. I had been singing for about 3 years, and if you go back to some of those recordings, like I think the first recording we did isn't even on the EP compilation you have because
Okay.
it just sounds my singing just sounds so bad and just so unlistenable. Um, but it took me about 5 or 6 years before I started getting happy with it. And
Okay.
then this new EP is actually the first thing we've done where I'm like, that's it.
Talk
That
about
is how
mastering
I
your.
always
Yeah,
imagined myself. Yeah, like I there's nothing I obviously plan to continue
yeah,
developing and
yeah.
whatnot, but
Talk about
if
mastering your
this
craft. I mean, did you take lessons or did you self-taught?
yeah.
How would you?
Well, I took about I took about a year's worth of lessons
Yeah.
with a teacher when I was living out east. She definitely got me into shape, and she taught me everything that I was really important that I needed to know
Yeah.
at the time, to get me on the right track. If you're watching this,
Yeah.
what's up, Jennifer? Um, uh, and then I kind of like when I moved back to Los Angeles, I kind of like um I picked up Ken Tamplin's program, which if
What?
you've spent any time on
I
vocal
heard the name
lessons
definitely.
YouTube,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, he's a little full of himself, but definitely if you're an aspiring metal singer, you really need to use his program because
Hey,
he's really
if the end
tailored to
result
that.
is this, my friend, I mean, hey, you know, thank you, Kim, because I mean, talk about mastering your craft. I mean, and I think it takes a certain amount of being able to critique yourself to say, okay, you know what?
Oh yeah.
Um, I can do this or I can't do this. And some people, as we know, who don't really have that talent think they do. And, they get up there and they do it. And if
I
maybe
know that.
you're a better singer too by putting down the bass. Because a lot of people tell me, hey, if you're a lead singer and you're playing guitar or you're playing bass, it's a difficult thing to kind of being able to do. So you're a lot more freer
Oh my
just
God.
being the singer, you know?
Some people just have a really, really natural talent for that, and I really do not. Like
It's yeah.
if you look back on some of the footage from when I was singing and doing bass, I almost sound like almost like a generic thrash vocalist. Like I'm kind of just going like da 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 da. Like man, yeah, I
Again, it's about being
cannot
able to critique
double tap
yourself
like
because
that.
Dave Mustaine even has that same story where, he was just a guitar player in
Mhm.
Metallica, and then I've heard him talk in interviews over years that a lot like you, that I wanted to audition other singers, but just could never find the right guy, and he finally got to the point where
Yeah,
he realized, you know
exactly.
what, nobody's going to sing my songs maybe with the passion that I have,
That
or
was
maybe I'd be more critical of another guy singing my songs. And he was just messing around the studio one day, and his manager told him, "Hey, Dave, why don't you just try to see about singing the songs?" And if
oh,
it
is that
not
how
been
that
for
happened?
that, if that had not been for that manager, um, Dave Mustaine might not be the great singer that we all know him to be today. You know?
I I always thought he just came to that decision like on his own. I didn't know that somebody else recommended it. Like
Also,
I know that he didn't want to audition other singers, but I didn't know
yeah.
that his manager was the one who
And
recommended it.
again, I got to tell you, Devin, you really on the latest stuff. You've delivered the metal goods, and so it's. I'm glad we're getting to talk about this. So let's
Um,
talk now about your new
right.
bass player, Will, and how you came to bring him into the band.
Yeah, just a little heads up. I'm a little bit awkward about taking compliments, like really serious ones.
You
And
shouldn't
I've
be. You shouldn't be because
actually been getting a lot of them lately, so
yeah.
I'm just kind of like, yeah. Anyways, on to Will. Yeah, Will is he was the guitar player in a band called Hydera that we're pretty close with.
Okay, I've
Played a
heard of it.
lot of shows with them. We've shared some members over the years. Um, and they kind of dissolved, and I actually hit up their bass player first because obviously that's the logical choice to
Joy.
make. And
Yeah.
he said, basically I'm not looking to get into anything. So I asked Will if he'd be interested in, you know, switching to bass and filling in for a little while. And uh, first time jamming with him, basically just within the first 5 minutes, we were like, oh, so it turns out you're actually like a really, really, really good bass player. And pretty much like right off the bat, he was like, yeah, I'm not doing anything anymore. If you guys want me as a full-time member, I'm completely down. And we were like, yes,
Wow.
yes,
Wow.
we do.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And
uh,
let me tell you, Devin, about taking compliments and that. See, this is an interesting thing in talking to you today because again, listening to the music, you get one image of what the singer, what the person is like, and then you get to talk to them and do something like this. And it's very unique because um, having not known any of this before talking to you today, I thought you've been a singer for years and this and that. And
I
just
mean,
by
now it
listening,
has been years, but
but you know what I mean? Just listening to stuff, you'd think, I never have any idea that this guy had to take lessons and kind of get to the point where he is today. But that shows you, like anything in life, if you work hard enough,
yes,
you can make it happen, or at least give it your best shot.
yeah,
And you really need to have faith in yourself and belief in what you can do because you really deliver. As I like to say, another Judas Priest reference. You really deliver the metal goods here, and even people can see that you're talking to us today from your car. You're just got off work. You're a working man, and so that's
if
something to be
you can
proud
call
of.
what I do work, but
Yeah.
huh?
Well, it's a way to make a living. I mean, right?
Yeah, yeah. Um,
It, and you're wearing King Diamond on your shirt today, so he's
the
obviously a
Zam
huge
album,
influence.
best best album ever made. No, not the best, but like one of the best.
Yeah. Um, yeah, but I got to tell you, it's really interesting talking to you today because I never would have had any idea that you weren't a natural born singer, and that's what makes your story that much more fun because this is a guy that's really worked hard to get to this point. And your publicist sent me a press release a couple months back on you guys, and it's saying about you guys want to take your band from Los Angeles, California to world domination, and I think you got the potential to do it. So let's talk about if you
I,
played any live shows or you plan to.
oh, we play live shows all the time.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And have you got much outside of LA area, like or
So we did one mini tour that was I think to like Colorado and back through New Mexico.
what was that like?
Um, it was fun, but it was also kind of probably not a great idea because our guitar player had bailed on us like a week and a half in advance.
Wow. Okay.
Um, and I'm the thing you've kind of got to understand about me is that I'm a very like what like I try not to let roadblocks prevent anything.
Yeah.
To an almost like sociopathic degree. I don't know if sociopathic is the right word, but
Maybe
like
maybe you're a
to an almost
workaholic. You're dedicated to what you do, and you want
well,
everybody
yeah.
else you work with to be
I just
dedicated.
I mean like I just sort of am principally opposed to the idea of letting the laziest person I'm working with dictate what I am capable of.
Because that one
Um,
person can bring everybody else down.
yeah, absolutely. And this was this was probably a case where I should have just, taken the L and just been like, okay, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
'Cause, it didn't sound good. We were meant to be heard with two guitar players,
Yeah.
and I was playing bass at the time, which meant that my singing sounded like complete balls.
Yeah.
So I don't think we did ourselves any favors with that. But we've also played up north in San Francisco a couple times, and that's always gone really well.
Oh, great.
So we've sort of put our
Stuff
gotten
out
our
there.
feet
Yeah.
wet a little bit out there, but nothing to where I'd describe us as like a touring band yet.
Okay, but
Hopefully, it would be
you're
nice
wetting
if
your
we could.
feet. You're wetting your
Huh?
feet. You're
Yeah,
wetting your
exactly.
feet. And let me ask you, so all those years of learning and kind of how to be a singer and that, what was it like the very first time you stepped up on a stage and doing it for the first time? That must have been like,
Well,
oh wow, I
so
did it.
so the thing is, I do karaoke a lot,
Oh,
and I do it. I do it as a literal training exercise. Like I've always considered karaoke to be work because it's practice performing in front of people.
oh sure.
It's like, okay, what skills am I going to lose the minute I get in front of people? And so I
Yeah.
have a good sense of that. So like, and I've been doing that a while. And no matter what your instrument is, you're always going to be a little worse live than you are in the studio, and then a little worse in the studio than you are at home practicing. So, you know, um, yeah, I've spent a lot of time practicing to perform live. So the first time I did it, I uh it felt like nothing more intimidating than just another karaoke performance.
Oh wow,
Um,
that's good because a lot of times people don't have that experience, and like they say, as far as talking about performing live, if people want to, I know when I go to a show, I want to be entertained. If I want to stay home and just listen to
sure.
the record, I'll do that. But when I go see a band live, I want to get a little something different. I want maybe the singer to scream a little higher, or give me
Right, right, right.
extended
Um,
version of a song or something.
yeah, I think I think that's just a natural occurrence when you're having fun with it and when it comes so naturally. Like the other thing is what I do, I practice so much that singing is so natural to me that it's just a mechanical thing.
There you
It's
go.
like it's just so mechanical, and that kind of frees me up to put more emotion and sort of feeling into it. Like I could get up there drunk, like high, like tired and about
You're
to
not
fall
going to be on your
asleep, and I
total
would
game
probably
then, right?
yeah, I would probably not sound any different as long as I have the same like 20 minutes to warm up.
Yeah.
Um, like drink time to drink fluid beforehand. Um, so yeah, I think that when something comes so naturally to you, that's when you start getting into the like the sort of the improv and the sort of person to person communication element to
Yeah.
performing. And I think that that's something that a lot of metal bands are missing. And I'm not even necessarily claiming that I have that.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
saying that that's something that I aspire towards.
Yeah,
Um,
when I go see a band, typically I like to see more of guys in jeans and t-shirt. There's certain bands that can get away with that, but like I said, when I go, I want to be entertained, if you know what I mean. And the thing with that too is how much the singer or their band kind of believes in themselves. You got to have a certain level of arrogance, but I mean in a good way, if you know what I mean.
well, you also just have to. I think that what you also just have to understand is like you are playing heavy fucking metal.
Yeah, yeah.
Like own that, like enjoy that, like live that, and be that. Like
It's
you
not
did
Pink
not.
Floyd. It's not thinking man's rock, you know.
Well, it is. I mean, it can be a thing.
Yeah,
There's tons of like Symphony X is
good
going
example. Yeah,
since they're off the top of my head. Like there are
there you
tons
go.
of thinking man's metal bands, but like you didn't. I mean, you might have, but
Yeah.
probably when you were a kid and just discovering metal, you were probably really attracted to the like energy of
The
these
music.
guys with long hair
Oh, sure.
headbanging and
Yeah, yeah.
flipping their hair around. Obviously, that's not something I'm able to do because nature
Hey,
has
yeah,
other fucking ideas. But like,
you're in
just
good company here, you know.
yeah. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like you need to just let yourself go
Be yourself.
and just be cool. Like metal bands should be cool. They should make the listener go, "Oh my God, that is fucking awesome. I want to be like that."
It's
There's
funny when
nothing
you think
awesome
even
about,
what is
huh?
heavy metal. I remember back in the day where Bon Jovi used to be defined as heavy metal, and oh my God, he cut his hair. What happened?
I mean, he was obviously older when that happened, and
Yeah, yeah,
I think that when you reach a certain level of success and then a certain age, you sort
yeah.
of earn the right to give yourself a little bit of
For
leeway,
sure.
especially if you've gotten bored with
It's
like,
just funny how people react to stuff like that, you know. And
yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't I try not to focus too much on that,
yeah.
on the the
You got a
people
great
complaining about
image
stuff.
for being in a metal band. It works for you. But how
I
surprised were
I
you once you started singing and that, and heard other people telling you what a great singer they thought you were? Was that hard to take?
well, like anything that happened first when I would perform karaoke, because like I said, I did that as work to like develop my stage persona
Yeah,
and my stage skills. So that's really when I started getting like the compliments, and it kind of honestly that it kind of felt like, oh yeah, like of course people are going to say that about me, because in that context my competition is like drunk people who are just croaking and wailing their way through a song. it's
yeah,
it's like a really safe environment to do a lot of your preparation. Like if anyone watching this is an aspiring singer, like especially an aspiring rock or metal singer, I really recommend spending a lot of time in karaoke places, because it, it
yeah.
it is just an incredible like dojo, if you will, just like
But
a
you know
place
what,
to hone
Devin,
your skills.
what you got to tell
Huh?
yourself is when you reach the level of professional ism that you're in. As far as
I mean,
people are buying your music, people are going to your shows. In
a
today's world,
little bit.
I would at least think if you were really such an awful singer, people wouldn't even be going to the shows. They wouldn't be paying for a ticket. I mean,
Well, I mean, we are still an unsigned local band, so not a whole lot of people are going to the shows. But
I'm just saying that if it wasn't any good, at least people wouldn't even be downloading the songs to check
right,
out. In today's world, people you're lucky if they even play the song all the way through. You know what I mean?
yeah,
They got that kind of mentality. I talk to people all the time, tell me, "Oh, I don't buy albums anymore. I just buy whatever label single is for 99 cents." Whereas, like I said, it's very different world when we were growing up. I remember going to a record store and they had record stores, and you go and do that.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Deb, I'd like to, before we wrap this up, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this.
Thank you too, man.
Let's keep in touch because I
Absolutely.
think we got out a good chunk of your story, but there's so much more to tell. And I guess the best place to end this, if you could tell us real quick about the origins of the band's name. I always love to ask people, when I heard Anubis, what is
Okay.
that?
So Anubis is the Egyptian god of. I really need to just look on Wikipedia and make sure that all my information about this is correct, because it's
Yeah,
possible that it isn't.
yeah.
But he Anubis is the god of, I believe, death and the underworld.
Oh, great. How metal is that?
Yeah. So he is. You'll see, like, if you look at Egyptian art or Egyptian mythological images or whatnot, you'll see a man with the head of a jackal.
Okay.
And that is Anubis, the Egyptian god of death. And it was pitched by our first guitar player who hasn't been in the band for a while.
Okay.
And what I liked about it, I just like mythology a lot. I'm not necessarily as up on my Egyptian as other
Well,
forms of
that kind of
mythology.
shows you your Iron Maiden influence because they're all into that kind of stuff too, you know.
I mean, yeah, the Power Slave album, obviously. But um, the second thing I liked is that it's three syllables
Yeah.
and that it's uh,
Hard word. It's simple. I mean, yeah, how hard is
yeah,
that?
and that it starts with an A, which means that it's going to be at the top of any
There you go.
alphabetized list.
Very
Um,
smart business wise. Well, once again, Devin Reich, thanks for doing this. Interview
Absolutely.
we just did is going to be going up in the next week sometime. I'll be sure to let you
All
know if
right.
it goes up.
Great.
Feel free to
Thank you
share.
very
Like
much.
I said, let's do it again. And one last thing I want to ask you about was the artwork on the cover of the new release. That's pretty cool too.
Yeah, that was done by a guy named he's on Instagram as I believe it's Adi Dechristianize Art.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Um
great work. Yeah, great work.
man,
Nice.
oh man, is he phenomenal. Then we also get some of our art done by this guy Rudy Yanto.
Okay.
I think both these guys are from Indonesia. And then God, what's the other guy we sometimes go to?
Well, that's all right.
Uh Ku- Kumalitzer,
Uh,
something like Kumalitzer art. God,
what I love about that is you're going halfway around the world to get these guys to, and
you know,
you're providing them a platform to get the
I
art.
don't know what it is about Indonesia, but
Yeah.
but God, oh man, oh man, oh man, do they have some phenomenal artists there who just charge a pittance for their work. Like